Hi, welcome to Portage County Matters. I'm Patty Dreier, Portage County Executive, and it's great to have you with us today. Our show will feature Central Rivers Farmshed as the theme of the show, and I can't wait till we get to that topic, but there's a few important notes to make at the top of the show first. Announcement number one, on May 24th, the Space and Properties Committee passed a motion to choose an option 1.1 for a new courthouse and jail construction. For more information, you can watch the video found at the city's website, the City of Stevens Point's website. Click on the left for videos, and you can go from there and find it. Certainly, there are many more steps and input opportunities in the process. Safety and efficiencies are two top reasons that drive the need for action on our physical facilities for Portage County government as we strive to look for the next 50 years into our future. And as always, you're welcome to call the County Executive's office with questions or contact the office with your comments. And I will be preparing my recommendations for our capital improvement projects plan and present those recommendations at the end of June 30th. So that'll be another opportunity for me to help, shape the future. The second announcement I wanted to make was that on June 14th, there is a special county board meeting at which Victoria McGrath from McGrath Human Resources Group will present the findings of our county salary study and present her recommendations. It isn't a very common thing for Portage County to have a special county board meeting, and so the salary study is the main subject of the entire night. On June 21st, the normal county board meeting scheduled for the month of June, you'll also find that the department directors of county government will each be taking about 5 minutes for department presentations and to introduce themselves, their goals, the priorities that they need to accomplish over the next couple of years. This is an enhancement of our current county board orientation that I've been working on with the chair of the County Board of Supervisors, Phil Eidsvog. Together, we believe that everybody can benefit from knowing each other better and help county board supervisors get to know even more about the diverse missions of our 30 county departments. And we thought everybody really in the whole community could benefit from the chance to meet those directors and to hear from them about the important issues and challenges facing their own department's mission. Together, we think that this will help build better relationships and better communications and will facilitate better outcomes overall for county government in the next couple of years. So, there may be a few of those county board, a few of those department head or department leader presentations on the June 14th meeting as well. It's kind of an overflow night, so you'll be able to watch the video of either of these two county board meetings on the city's website as well under the video tab and be able to catch up on these meetings if you can't attend in person. It's a great opportunity for you to get to know your county better through the department leader presentations. We'll be publishing a directory as well. That'll be another way for you to learn about it. That'll be available on the county website when it's completed. And all of this together, again, will build everybody's literacy about what the county does in their daily lives to improve our world right here in central Wisconsin. Now, I'd like to introduce you to my guest. I've got Krista Engelhardt here, and Krista is with the Central Rivers Farmshed organization. We just refer to it as Farmshed very affectionately in our community. Welcome, Krista.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. Now, Farmshed is really a dream come true, I think. That'd be the way I would sum it up.
Thank you. Yeah, it's very unique. Not every community has, an organization doing the work that Farmshed is doing, so we're thrilled to be a part of the great work going on here in Portage County.
I love it. When I went to your website, it says, Farmshed organizes events, programs, workshops, and resources that help support a local food economy. So let's talk about that, Krista, and I want to make sure in here we also get to know a little bit about your own story and why you're connected to this movement related to local food economies here in central Wisconsin. So let's start with a little bit of a story about Farmshed itself? Where did it come
Yeah,
from?
so Farmshed was started around 2006, 2007. It was an all-volunteer organization, a very grassroots organized type movement. And there were people in the community that were concerned about all different sorts of issues, ranging from health and wellness to the local economy, keeping local farmers farming, sustainability and environmental issues. And so they came together and they started meetings on Friday mornings at different locations around town, supporting different restaurants, and formed some different volunteer committees to work on different projects within the community. And one of the earliest things that they started working on was called the Local Food Forum, which has now sort of morphed into what we call our local food fair, which is a large outreach event that we hold at SPASH, the local high school, every February.
It is very highly attended.
Yeah.
I've gone several times, and I see people signing up for community-supported agriculture for their own farmer,
Definitely,
right?
yep, so those CSA shares.
And they get their farmer's atlas there,
Yes.
their local
Their Farm
atlas.
Fresh Atlas, that's a local food guide that lists our farms, businesses, restaurants, and farmers markets. And that actually covers an 11-county region in central Wisconsin. But in Portage County, we do have a lot of farms and markets and things that are happening. So,
Awesome. And let's see, does that also function as a fundraiser for?
the local food fair is actually not really a fundraiser for Farmshed. So that's our biggest outreach event, and that's our way to bring in new people who are just maybe learning about local food, or some of the workshops that we hold there are also a little bit more advanced. So we like to offer a little bit of something for everyone, whether they're just learning about local food or if they already consider themselves to be a foodie. They might want to, learn more about fermentation or something like that. So we have both workshops for beginners and more advanced folks in the local food system. And then we have all of our farms and businesses there exhibiting, getting new members. They also sell products, so it's sort of a winter farmers market. And then we have a potato bar dinner featuring local potatoes, and then a lot of our area restaurants donate deluxe toppings. And then people can choose which toppings they want to get on their local potato.
And I remember there were some activities for children, so you could engage them right along the way.
Activities, yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, why are you, Krista Engelhardt, why are you connected to the local food economy movement here?
Yeah, so how I really got started and interested in food issues was when I was a teenager, and I learned about large-scale factory, like animal farming. And that really went right to my heart, and I just thought I cannot be supporting, animals that are being treated in inhumane ways and things like that. And so I started researching a little bit more about where my food was coming from and things like that. And so at that time, I actually became a vegetarian because I didn't know about my local meat options that I could find, where animals are produced on a much smaller scale, and they get to be out in the field eating grass, grazing, pasture-raised animals. And so I started realizing now, okay, I have other options. So I'm not a vegetarian anymore, but that was what really first brought me into learning about the food movement. And I also worked in healthcare for 8 years. So all throughout high school and college, I worked at our local hospital. And so I saw a lot of the impacts of a standard American diet that doesn't typically include enough fruit and vegetable intake. And so that was another thing that, was really close to my heart. So I kind of come from, the animal welfare, the environmental perspective, and then also that health and wellness perspective. So I relate to a lot of those things. And that's the neat thing about food, is that there are so many different connections and so many different things that it impacts.
Now, Krista, let's tell everybody about what community you're talking about that you grew up in.
So I grew up in Stevens Point.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yay.
Yeah, so I grew up in Stevens Point, moved here when I was a toddler, and then I decided I wanted to study natural resources. And so I actually decided to stay here and go to the University of Wisconsin-Stevens Point for college.
Excellent.
Yeah.
So anyway, now your role at the Central Rivers Farmshed, I'm going to call it Farmshed going on here now.
Yeah.
Your role at Farmshed is program development?
Program coordinator.
Program coordinator.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what kinds of programs you're working to coordinate and the kinds of organizations and individuals you work with in doing that, please.
Yeah, so a lot of our programs and events are volunteer run, but there's a lot of coordination that needs to happen in order to facilitate those volunteers and make sure that all the work is being done. And so what I do is I work to coordinate those volunteers, especially for our events. We typically have planning committees that will come together every year, and so I just work as sort of a leader to help, again, facilitate the work that those volunteers need to do to make events happen, like our local food fair that we mentioned before, and then another event that we host in the fall called the Farmer Tribute Dinner.
Oh, I've been there as well. Those are fabulous events.
And some other programs that I spend a lot of time working on is that Farm Fresh Atlas that we mentioned, that free local food guide. Farmshed also has a local food fundraiser that we run, and so that's an alternative school fundraiser. And we have about 10 area schools that participate through that fundraiser, and so instead of selling candy bars or magazines or gift wrap, the students actually get to sell products that are grown by our small-scale local farms.
I did not know about that.
Yeah, so they sell cheese, meat, honey, maple syrup. We've had apples, fresh cranberries, dried cranberries, goat's milk, soap, all sorts of different local products.
Wow, that's a terrific idea. Instead of the pizza at the doorstep or the beef jerky or whatever.
Right, and so then that keeps that funding right here in our community as well. So that's great. They're supporting their local farmers, they're raising money for their school, and they're supporting Farmshed and helping other people learn about the importance of local food and how they can, purchase local food. Because we also hand out our Farm Fresh Atlases with our local food fundraiser orders so that people can continue to purchase from those farmers if they like the products that they purchase through the fundraiser.
And it's healthier too,
and it's a lot
instead of the box
food.
of cookies
Right.
I bought recently.
Yeah, so we have a lot of healthy options. Yeah, and then another program that's really seasonal to what we have going on right now is our farmers market programming. So we call that Farmshed at the Market, and we're at the Stevens Point Farmers Market on the downtown square every Saturday. And we accept EBT or food share cards. And so EBT stands for Electronic Benefit Transfer. A lot of people might be more familiar with the term food stamps, which is now converted to more of a debit card format, and so they call it the EBT.
Sure.
Yeah.
We, through our Health and Human Services department, had assisted in making sure that we could get those links made for folks to be able to buy fresh food at the farmer's market rather than
so that allows low-income community members to come to the farmers market on Saturdays. They can swipe their EBT card. We have volunteers there at the booth that will accept their card, and we have $1 wooden tokens that we will then issue them. They can choose however many dollars they want to get off of their card or out of that food share account, and then they get the $1 tokens to shop with at the farmers market. And most of the vendors at the market accept those tokens.
Terrific, really terrific.
Yeah, and then we also host chef demonstrations on the first Saturday of every month, and we have kids activities on the third Saturday of every month, and that's actually also in partnership with our local UW Extension Portage County office for this summer, so we're very excited about that.
Another county link. Yeah,
another
absolutely.
county link. Yep.
Let's talk about the greenhouse downtown.
Yeah.
And where the Farmshed sort of headquarters is located for folks that may not know.
Yeah, so the Farmshed headquarters is based out of what was formerly known as Sorenson's Floral. It was quite a historic site in town. The garden center was open for more than 50 years, and in addition to being a garden center, they also had cut flowers. So a lot of people remember coming there to get their boutonnieres or corsages for prom and things like that. And we've now converted that into a community food education center. So we have 3 main components to that site. We have a community gathering and learning space, we have production greenhouses, and then we have a commercial kitchen.
Oh, wow. And I remember Sorenson's and used to go there and buy flowers and plants in the greenhouse. And to know that with the help of a local donor, Farmshed was able to have a place to continue to call its own and develop its mission out of. It's just been fabulous. Why don't you talk about Patrick a little bit?
Yeah, so when Sorenson's closed, they were actually foreclosed upon. And so Everything was left there as is. The plants dried up and died in the greenhouse. The building was kind of in disrepair. The roof had been leaking and things like that. So it was really a sad sight. And it was for sale for several years. And there was a lot of interest in making something happen there with these greenhouses. Everyone kept seeing them and thinking, what can we do? What can we do? And Will Allen, who's quite famous and has an urban food center in the Milwaukee area, actually came up here to Stevens Point. They showed a film at the university called Fresh, which is a great food film. If people are just wanting to learn about what's happening with the food system, I definitely recommend that film. But they showed that film, and then they actually did a tour at Farmshed. And Will Allen said, you guys can do this. And so he actually helped generate a lot of that initial excitement about getting the site. And so the Sorenson's was going to actually go up for auction. And so we had a month to find a way to purchase the facility if we wanted to make something happen there. And so we had a few lead volunteers who were trying to figure out how we could get that site. And they approached a local author named Patrick Rothfuss. And he also has his own nonprofit in the area called World Builders, and they do a lot of fundraising for Heifer International. But Farmshed was very fortunate that he stepped up and said, yes, I will purchase this property for you guys. And so we actually rent the facility from Patrick Rothfuss.
It's such a lovely story.
Yes.
Every time we see Patrick, we thank him.
Yes.
And certainly being part of the early days, I remember those early Friday morning meetings. I had gone to a number of them. And then as time went on, to be able to meet Will when he came up from Milwaukee and join with the community and learning more, and then to process through and develop those dreams and plans and have them be realized now.
Yes.
I mean, just even on the brink of being totally to their next level of development. I mean, how awesome is this?
Yes, it's fabulous. Yeah, so the facility is not quite complete yet. We'd like to have expanded educational and event space, so at some point we will be, constructing, adding on to the existing building. That was the old storefront. But we do have the greenhouses, we have some production going on in there, and we are now able to use the commercial kitchen thanks to some funding that we received through the USDA Local Food Promotion Program.
Yeah, let's talk about those grants. You recently received them. I was over at Farmshed during the AmeriCorps Recognition Day recently, and that was my first opportunity to see the new commercial kitchen. And this is a resource for our community to consider using, especially entrepreneurs who are really trying to take their products to the rest of the world. And you have to use a certified kitchen. You can tell us more about that,
Definitely,
huh?
yeah. And so that can be very challenging for new local food businesses that are trying to start up. It's very expensive to, acquire your own building, let alone purchase all of the equipment that you need for a commercial kitchen, including, a nice range and hood, that commercial grade large scale equipment. And so we offer our kitchen for rent for people who are looking to start local food businesses, or for people who have existing local food businesses that might have been using a different community kitchen, traveling outside of Stevens Point to access that kitchen. Now they can stay right here in our community, and so we love that. So we have a pesto maker in there. We've also had someone canning and freezing different produce items, and then we've had, as some people might be familiar with, Shaw's Jamaican Kitchen, which is a local family who is looking to start up a restaurant in the area. They don't have a permanent space yet, but they were renting for us from a few months and actually offering food on Saturdays. So you could come in and eat at Farmshed, or you could order in advance and then just take it to go. So yeah, it's a great opportunity for local food businesses that are just trying to start up, or trying to, like the Jamaican Kitchen, they wanted to just test out their recipes. They wanted to get feedback from the community to make sure that when they move forward with building their restaurant, that they're going to have customers that love their food, and that they're going to be serving the community in the way that the community wanted to see happen. So, and then the other great thing about the kitchen is we can also use it for our workshops that we host at Farmshed. So we also host all sorts of different workshops, from small scale agriculture topics, backyard chickens, more of gardening type things. We have a straw bale and container gardening workshop happening in mid-June. And then
canning?
Yes, then we also have the food related ones, and so those can happen in the kitchen. So we have some dehydration, preservation, canning tomatoes, pickling, pressure canning, and then we're having actually some more advanced workshops in the kitchen this summer as well, including some different knife skills, breaking down a whole hog, and things like that. So some really neat things happening in the kitchen. Yeah.
Oh, it is just amazing thinking about the topics, the broad range of topics that you even just mentioned a second ago here. That's just a tribute all the way around to the vision. So, all right, you also have community potlucks, and I had the opportunity to go to one of those. Tell us more about those.
Yeah, so we host a community potluck and open house on the second Tuesday of every month at 6:30. And on our website, we have the suggested themes posted, and we also have postcards out around town or at our headquarters. So if anyone wants a paper copy, they're nice to put up on your fridge. But each month we have a different suggested theme that prompts people to use different items that are going to be in season during that time. Plus, it just helps keep the food, different every month. But it is always really good food. It's really fun people, all ages, from toddlers up until the elderly. Definitely encourage anyone to come on down. You can get a tour when you get there, and then just share all of the delicious food that everyone brings, and we all just kind of sit down together and share a meal.
Last night at the CAP Services 50th anniversary event at Century World, I'm thinking about the keynote speech, and Sister Campbell said that, America is we the people, not I the individual. And to me, as I'm sitting there last night, I'm thinking about how easy it is to form relationships in our community. And the potluck that you just described, this free community potluck, to meet your neighbors, build connections, build a future together, is really an extraordinary opportunity for people. So nobody ever has to feel like they're alone here, for sure. Not in a food movement, but not in the community in any other way either. And I just love the idea that we have a place for this. And it's not, just the place of peace kinds of meals. It's a place for families to come as an alternative to be able to be engaged in getting your hands dirty, if it meant that, in growing something, including a better future for everybody.
Definitely, yeah, and it's very fun. A lot of times people will share recipes, and a lot of times they'll also label on their dish what farms they sourced from and things like that. So it can also be an opportunity for learning as well. You might learn how to cook a new dish or learn about a farm you didn't know. So it's a really cool opportunity, and yeah, just a great time for people to come together.
Now recently, Krista Engelhardt from Farmshed, recently I was on campus for a different event, and I came across a poster that was hanging on one of the big walls in the DUC, and it was called Food Ethics, and it stopped me in my tracks. And I took a picture of the poster, and I'd like to read you the words on the poster for a new course that they're offering on campus. And you having a food ethics emphasis from your background at UW-Stevens Point, I'd like you, Krista, to weigh in on the information I'm going to read. Definitely. Okay? It says, when we lift our fork, we are making ethical choices that can impact animal welfare, environmental health, our communities, our well-being, and world hunger. Often the relationship between food and these issues is less than clear. In this course, we'll illuminate these connections by exploring a variety of ethical and philosophical issues relating to food. It's a lot, so let's take it a piece at a time. Can you help us, any listeners out there, understand a little bit more about the food ethics connection when we're talking about animal welfare?
Yeah.
I know you touched a little bit on it.
I did touch on that a little bit earlier, but there's actually kind of two ways that you can look at it. So I mentioned, sort of those really large-scale factory farms, confined animal operations, and that can be really negative experience for the animals because again, they're not necessarily eating the food that's natural to them. Like cows like to be grazing out in the field, and a lot of times in those cases they're fed corn or other types of grains that they might not naturally choose to eat if they had access to land. And the other way that you can look at it is a lot of large-scale farms, like a monoculture, say, that's just growing corn or something like that. In the past, that was habitat for wildlife. And so it can also have negative impacts on wildlife in terms of really large-scale farming. Like a lot of our smaller scale farmers, you know, they don't have those large fields of never-ending corn.
So it's more diverse.
Yeah, so it's much more diverse. They have lots of different crops. They might have multiple smaller plots throughout their farm. And they might also be doing some other work to encourage like pollinators to be coming to their farms and things like that.
Okay, so let's take environmental health. I think we've got about 3 minutes left in the show.
Okay.
So we're going to go through these next 4 topics. Environmental health.
Yeah, so environmental health, a few things here. If you think about where your food comes from, when you go to the grocery store, your average food has actually traveled over 1,500 miles to get to your plate. And so for a lot of the items that had to be refrigerated and things like that, they were trucked all across the country in a refrigerated truck. It's just a huge increase for your carbon footprint or the impact that you're having on the environment. So that's one very important thing that you can look at in terms of an environmental factor.
It says our communities is the next one on a food ethics poster I saw on campus. So,
our communities?
Yes. So how do your food choices affect your community in your view, Krista?
So when you're sourcing locally, like say you go down to the farmer's market, you're paying that farmer directly as opposed to going to the grocery store where there's some middlemen in there and the farmer isn't making as much off of that food that they're selling. So that's one way, is that we're really supporting our local economy by supporting our local farmers, and in turn they are probably also a lot more likely to then be spending that money within our community as well, because being small business owners, they really appreciate the work of other small business owners in the community, and so they're likely to also shop at smaller businesses and things like that.
Outstanding. And how about our well-being? You mentioned a little bit with your health background.
Yeah, with the health background. So the USDA recently released and said, that Americans are typically not consuming enough fruits and vegetables. And so on the most basic level, eating local food, a lot of the options that you're going to get are whole food options. So when you go down to the farmer's market, you're not going to see packaged processed food items. And so the more that you're sourcing and purchasing locally and making your own food from scratch, you're likely to be positively impacting your own health as well as the health of the community at large.
And world hunger.
Yeah, world
the
hunger.
Connection?
So I see the connection here being supporting small farmers, not just within our community, but also across the globe, and making sure that other communities have their power to be able to also be growing their own food. And so that's a really important aspect of local food and world hunger, making sure that we can feed our own communities and that we have food secure communities that we can live in.
And definitely Farmshed and your work, Krista, is making a big difference in helping us have more security and resiliency in our own local community. So thank you and all of your friends and colleagues in Farmshed for that.
Yeah, thank you.
At our next show, we're going to have a guest that will come back from previous shows, Greg Wright. He's going to talk about Create Portage County, the transformation of Arts Alliance in its next generation right here in Portage County. I look forward to seeing you then. Thank you.